like it's nothing too heavy. I just like there.
Crap. Just go for it.
I just wanted to talk about musical influences and I guess you aren't as much of a musician as the three of us, but you do play a little bit too. But like there's certain bands that if someone says to me like, oh, I love the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like my first instinct is you don't love them as much as me. Like I sort of like I got their tattoo right here for real. But there's like bands that I almost like take ownership of. It's like they are so influential to me, they're important, and they feel like sort of part of my own identity. And I wondered if it was the same way for you, and if you guys had three bands that were like huge influences either on you musically or in life, and sort of why. Like, do you have three bands that you sort of call your own?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Who do you do?
First one is a band called the Flatliners. They're a punk band from Toronto. Mainly, they're punk and they're awesome musically as musicians. They do their thing. You think punk and you think three chords just played really fast, but these guys actually have really, really good songwriting. Their structures are interesting and unique. The concepts they use for songs aren't the same ones you've heard over and over again, and if they are, he's twisting them in a way to make it interesting about his life. And what really gets me about them is they're like the same age as me. So we're kind of going through a lot of the same stuff together, even though he's singing about being in a band and being on the road and not having friends or family or all these types of things. They relate to me in a very similar way with stuff that's going on in my life. So they're a big one for me. Second one's a band called Propagandy, and they're super controversial, which is why I love them.
I feel like I've heard of that one.
They're
John K.
Sampson.
Yeah,
So he was in the first album. Yeah. Weaker Than is another one.
I think they actually talked about
he's
Propagandy in the Rebel Cell.
Yeah, they probably would.
They're Canadian, are they?
They're Canadian. Yeah. They're from Manitoba. So what gets me about those guys in particular is that they have this. They take everything we were just talking about, like the taboo and all of that kind of stuff, and they just live it, like straight up. They're probably, I think they are straight edge. Like they don't ever talk about drinking or partying or anything like that. They're all four of them are vegans. They've had different members as guitar players, but they're vegans, and they like used to be real preachy about it, but they like proudly advocate for the little guy all the time. They're like warriors for the unsung heroes kind of thing. But what gets me about them compared to other bands that do that thing is they actually do that stuff. Like they're actually, when the resistance and for the Dakota Pipeline was happening, they were there. Like they were doing that kind of stuff all the time. So they're kind of like my moral compass when it comes to life things, like whether it's are all these lights really necessary? We're wasting all this energy, like all this type of stuff, like these thoughts that go through your heads from time to time. They're the guys that I think of, like, what would they think about it? It's like, what would Jesus do? It'd be like, what would Propaganda say? So I try, I use them as a compass. I try to keep myself in check sometimes. For number 3, it would probably, like more musically than anything else, it would probably be Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah?
Not so much because of like, oh, it's so trippy, because of how much of like just out there he was at that time.
Yeah, he's extremely
just
innovative.
Intentionally pushing the boundaries, intentionally saying, I'm going to do it whether you want to listen to it or not. This is what's happening right now. And not ever forcing himself to be like perfect. Like it doesn't have to be like Steve Vai.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to play it a million times until I get it just right. I'm going to play it the way it needs to be played. Somebody like B.B. King, that like, I think it was B.B. King that said it, like, you can play a million notes or you can play one right. Mm-hmm. Right? And you'll know when it's right. And that's why I love Jimi Hendrix, is he just has that thing that you can't put your finger on it. It's not a word. He just has it. Mm-hmm. And it makes you feel it every single time.
Yeah.
And I feel bad now that he's been gone for so long that he's like this big grand thing, right? and it's like he's just a product. It's like Bob Marley. He's just a product. Just gets pushed out. And like, do you think Bob Marley would have wanted his face on soda cans?
Well, it was interesting. Like we
Coffees.
Yeah.
And
This
stuff,
is
like,
it was interesting. Like we went to we took a road trip down to Seattle and Aberdeen. So we saw within the span of a couple days, we went and we saw Hendrix's grave, and then we saw Kurt Cobain's house. Kurt Cobain doesn't even have a grave. So Jimi Hendrix is like, we're asking around, where do you find Hendrix's grave? Everybody around was like, oh, it's in this cemetery. You just go around the path. Everybody knew exactly where it was. You show up there, and he's got this great huge monument, and
Just
there's
crash
flowers
format.
everywhere, and there's a big to do about
Just
him.
crash format.
And then when you go to Cobain's, it was all he had was there was his house, and then there was a bench. Are we even recording anywhere?
The audio. Yeah, keep going.
It was
technical difficulties.
there was just his house in Aberdeen. No one. It was like a treasure hunt trying to find where Kurt Cobain's monument was, and nobody knew. Even in this small town outside of Seattle, it's called Aberdeen. And then we finally found it, and all he had was this grungy bench that I guess people show up to from all around the world, and we signed it to. We just said like much love from Canada or like Kincardine or whatever. But it was just interesting how like they're both big icons from the same area, but like how what Hendrix became versus what ended up Cobain. I don't know. I just found that very interesting.
For sure. And they're both very like hugely influential in modern music.
Yes.
Like you could argue there'd be no Kurt Cobain without Jimi Hendrix. Well, that's kind of a moot point, but how many people Jimi Hendrix directly influenced compared to how many people Kurt Cobain directly influenced, and how many people got careers because of the music they made to then spawn new bands making similar music. Like, they're definitely powerhouse.
For sure. What about you, man? Three bands?
It's tough. I've been thinking about it a little bit. Frank Sinatra.
Cool.
One of my first albums that I ever got was just a Frank Sinatra Greatest Hits, and I got another one. I've loved. He's not even my favorite jazz singer really now, but like he'll always be my favorite. Just because of that early nostalgia. I remember the first time I think the first song I heard that I really recognized where I went like, that's one of my favorite songs, New York, New York.
Mm-hmm.
I almost never listen to that song now, but like that got me hooked on music and wanting to be a singer and wanting to do all this stuff. Like Frank Sinatra was a different type of performer.
That was that one.
That's good. We'll just as long as we have two, we're fine.
This one's gonna go out again.
Yeah, but we'll keep an eye on it. Anyway, yeah, he was just a different type of performer. He had a group. He was an actor. He just could do so much, and yeah, he obviously there's the whole thing about him having mafia ties that got him into the door in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But he had the skills to deliver when he got through the door. So what does it matter? So yeah, Frank Sinatra for sure. Tom Waits probably would be my next big like lasting influence. I always listen to Tom Waits.
I think it'd be fair for me if you put Jimmy and Tom Waits on there, or take one. No, he should be on there. He's an honorable mention.
Well, that's the thing. Like I had a toss up for my last spot. So Tom Waits for sure. If you haven't listened to Tom Waits, go listen to Tom Waits. He's great.
Anything by Tom Waits.
Yeah, really. Like, and he's got so many different eras. Like if you start early, it's a lot like the Frank Sinatra stuff. If you get later, which is where I came in, like the middle range, like
Rain Dogs and kind of stuff. Oh
like,
yeah, it's awesome. It's got it's like a he created a genre. It's so crazy. Yeah.
And anyway, yeah, he goes into a million different places, and he can do so much. It's amazing, and that sort of ties into the theme for this last one. I can't decide between two, so I'm gonna cheat. Joe Strummer from The Clash. Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros, specifically his band after The Clash, and after he had been doing just solo stuff for a while. The music is fantastic. It's like it blows my mind that someone who comes from that punk background and that like sort of ska influence can then just come out of it and write songs that anyone can listen to. Like they're still heavily punk and ska influenced, but I don't think maybe there are people who would listen to it and think it's terrible, but I like his later albums with the Mescaleros are just so fantastic. Like the songwriting is great, the messaging is great, like his voice is great, and the band is great. And Warren Zevon. Warren Zevon is my other the one that I couldn't decide between Joe and Warren Zevon.
I've honestly never. Is that like a Captain America villain?
Baron Zemo. But yeah, Warren Zevon. Werewolves of London is the big hit.
Oh yes.
But he did so much else. Like
he covered Kid Rock, right?
Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a great piano player, a great songwriter. That's sort of the theme to that second half of my list there, is just singer-songwriters are my favorite type of artist. Like I was inspired by Frank Sinatra when I was a kid, but like the people I always come back to and will always listen to time and time again are singer-songwriters. Even just finding a songwriter you really like and listening through their catalog, which isn't as popular now, but going back and listening through like Cole Porter's catalog of music, and like he's been sung by everyone. But anyways, that's beside the point. Warren Zevon specifically, when he found out he was dying, he had gone on Letterman after like when he was, which is insane. Like I can't imagine going on a talk show, and he was good friends with David Letterman. He would fill in for the band when they were out, and when Letterman asked him, "Do you have any insight that you have from where you are now that you could share with people that might change the way they're living?" He goes, "Just enjoy every sandwich." Like, the fact that was his insight, like someone who's dying and knows he's dying, was just like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And just enjoy every sandwich.
Man, I gotta go to Kaplansky soon.
Can I add one to my list?
Yeah, what?
Frank Zappa.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's nice. Now I don't have to say that.
You look like you could be related to Frank Zappa.
I'm just gonna
Grow your hair up.
I'm just gonna start saying bands, but I'll try and lead with the big top three. Is Meatloaf.
Oh,
Judge
yes.
me if you must.
Yeah?
No, that would have maybe been a guilty pleasure for me when I was younger, but now if anyone argued that Meatloaf wasn't amazing, I'd slap him.
I loved him on Celebrity Apprentice. He was great.
Everything louder is that the way that song builds more than the levee breaking on Zeppelin 4, the way that, and I guess I heard it first, but just that whole Bat Out of Hell 2, the whole album, but the way that song, they do the whole, like, what do you call that when you have a little vignette in the album and it's all
I don't know. What do you call that?
voice acting?
Yeah.
I think
And he
just
runs
call it
up,
a vignette.
Yeah.
and they run upstairs, and he described beating his dad to death with the Fender Stratocaster, and his dad's, son, what do you do? He's already killed his mom. That's no way to treat a beautiful instrument. And he says something like, Daddy, I love you, but you don't understand the first thing about rock and roll. Wasted Youth, I think, is what the song's actually called.
That's why he's such the perfect actor to have in Pick of Destiny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great movie. Yeah, Tenacious D would be on my list too. So, yeah, Meatloaf, Justice.
Justice,
Yeah.
Do the DANC.
Oh, yeah.
That one? Yeah.
Man,
Those-
that's so good. Yeah.
DVNO is hilarious. I love that song.
They're good.
I got messed up on watching like the side muddy Molson Amphitheater stage watching Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Cool.
place is a great place to go and just like
Those
Get
bands
barely be at a show.
Those guys couldn't be more different from each other. That's great. You
Now
gotta
I
give
have
them
hepatitis C and I
Yeah.
got to see Justice. Stupid muddy syringe filled Molson Amphitheater. Apparently hepatitis C isn't something you need to worry about so much anymore, according to some study in some agency, a government watchdog or something. Don't listen to the radio.
You're
kids.
here first,
So-
folks.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the radio. Come straight here
Go share
for
needles.
our
Yeah.
news.
Some
No,
something.
did you say? Oh, don't. Okay.
Well, technically the first time I said it in the affirmative and then followed it with don't, but
That's what I thought happened.
Pick that soundbite right out of there.
I don't know. I've got so many different number threes. I guess Deep Purple, but only because of Smoke on the Water, and then even only because of Frank Zappa. So that doesn't count. I don't know.
Wait, Frank
Miles
Zappa
Davis.
was in that.
No,
No,
that song's
No,
about
there's
being
the
out
other
of
because
mother's
Frank
son.
Zappa's already been.
Oh, he's
Frank
been spoken
Zappa
of.
and the
No, but
I see.
the song's about Frank Zappa.
What? I didn't know that.
This Smoke on the Water is all like they're having this concert
Frank
by the water
Zappa and the
all the
mother's
smoke.
birth the place to the ground.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa, he never did drugs, wasn't a big drinker. He
would
smoked
kick
like a
people out of the
chimney,
band
but-
for doing drugs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Straight edge.
Yeah.
Coffee
Crazy.
and cigarettes.
My three.
Wesley Willis.
Leslie Willis.
Wesley Willis.
Wesley
No, that
Willis.
doesn't. He's not even a band. What an interesting person.
Oh, is he like Northwest Airlines?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like
I
the.
forgot about him. He had a song about hamburgers or something too.
Oh, is that the guy? Birdman kicked my ass.
Yeah.
Birdman kicked my ass. Oh yeah. He's.
I totally
that's
forgot
great.
about that, dude. That's great. My three are James Taylor, because I remember just like he had such a crazy life too, and he's like in his old age he's become very vanilla and very like.
But he was crazy.
You know,
he was a wild man.
He was a wild man. Well, in the sense that he did a lot of drugs. He was
Yeah.
never really like, whoa! But like,
Yeah.
just watching old videos of him, just like he can barely keep his eyes open, just strung out on heroin. But watching
He
a
always
guy.
looked so friendly though.
He did, yeah, and he was. But just watching a guy go through like all those struggles and his best songs were when he was on heroin too. Now he's
sad how that always
it is sad.
Oh, isn't
but
he in Funny People too? Is that?
He was for a minute, yeah.
Have you guys seen that movie Frank? Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that
That's
movie.
an interesting thing that they say toward the end of the movie, and the heroin thing makes me think of that. Sorry, I know you're mid-list here.
That's okay.
But at one point toward the end, they're talking to the parents of this incredibly talented musician Frank, and he says to the parents, like, "Do you think the helmet made Frank who he is?" And his parents are like, "No, he's got a mental. He can't take the helmet off, right?
Yeah.
And he thinks he can't make music if he takes the helmet off." And his parents are like, "No, he's a brilliant musician. If anything, the helmet's held him back the entire time."
Yeah.
So yes, maybe he made his great music because of heroin, or maybe he was going to make his best music ever, and heroin actually just kind of made it less awesome.
Yeah.
Which is a sad way to think about it, but
Who knows?
I
Or
think
there was all
Metallica-
kinds in that whole era of music, like the Velvet Underground, even all those guys were so strung out on.
well, we've
Yeah.
talked about Hunter S. Thompson and drinking, or pick one and drinking.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, I love Hunter S. Thompson,
Hemingway.
but Hemingway,
Obviously.
man, The Sun Also Rises. That book hurts me when I read it, and same with the Rum Diaries, because they're so well, and you can tell he was inspired by Hemingway just by the way that story plays out. But still, those books hurt me because you know how angry those people were who were writing these books, and they wrote these beautiful emotional pieces of work that are so vulnerable, but they were just so angry and so violent. It's really hard to come to terms with, and a James Taylor, this sweet singer-songwriter, shooting up in the back room. It's-
Alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems. We're taking your turn.
That's okay. I want to see where it goes. Okay, but yeah, James Taylor was probably my first one. As far as my guitar playing goes, I love Jack Johnson, and I when I'm writing, all my guitar riffs end up sounding Jack Johnson-ish, and I like what he chooses to write about. He tells good stories, just sunny music. The camera's stopped again. Yeah. And
Always
then-
when you're talking too.
I know. So, James Taylor, Jack Johnson, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they're different. I guess they got that's California kind of.
all of
sound,
yours
but,
are alive.
They are.
All of mine are
Gonna
dead.
lose-
Well,
gonna
half of
lose
the,
that battery.
half of the Chili Peppers are.
I've seen 4 bands live, and Chili
At least
Peppers
the
is
guitar
one of
player.
them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we're closing in on.
Okay, so let's wrap it up then.
Yeah. What's any closing words?
Bye.
Wait, hold on a second. Sorry, it's just kind of become a tradition. Now we're done.